Morning.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Good
Good morning, good
morning.
afternoon.
All right, another great t-shirt there, Hendrik.
Thank you. Okay, let me share the agenda for today. So, who do we have? Michael, Milan, Riemann, Alex, me. So we would have quorum. Let me anyway ping all the channels. To have maybe like one or two more people here.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey,
Hey, Brandon.
Hope everyone has their coffee or beverage.
Whatever gets you going in the morning.
Or the time zones, whatever
It
keeps
may
you
be
going in
for
the
me
evening.
or- Yeah, exactly.
okay. So I think we can start with the introduction. Maybe one or another will join while doing that. So again, welcome to our TSC meeting. This is the meeting of the Hiero Technical Steering Committee. As any meeting we are doing, it's a public meeting. That means everybody is welcome to be part of that meeting. I'm seeing way over 10 people, like near to 20 people currently here in that meeting, way more people than we have in the TSC. So it's great to see that people are interested in this meeting, joining. If you are in general interested in Hiero, we have a lot of public meetings for our SDKs, general community meetings, for solo, and for many more topics. You can find them all in our public calendar that is linked on our website, on our agendas, and so on. And with doing all those meetings in the public and inviting you to discuss with us, bring in topics to our meetings, and so on. We do those meetings under the Code of Conduct and the Antitrust Policy of the Linux Foundation. Those are the minimal rules we have for our meetings, and in general, just be nice to everybody else, and then we're all good here in our meetings. If you miss any of our meetings, they are recorded. You can find the recordings in yeah, in our public calendar, just go to a previous meeting, and there you will see the recording of any previous meeting. And with that, let's have a look at our agenda for today. Oh, I missed to look at the approval of previous minutes this time. We can have a look at it. We have no open pull requests. That's awesome. That is very good.
Yeah, the minutes have been approved so fast recently. It's great. Shout out to Milan.
Perfect. That's so good. So, boop, first topic done. I like that. So, second topic, as always, we have our HIPS project board. So let's have a look at the HIPS tracker. And as you can see here, we have some HIPS, which are 3 HIPS that I assume will come to us in near future. Nothing is on the agenda for today, but I assume, since seeing here it's last call, that we will have those HIPS within the next weeks presented to the TSC. Richard is not here, but yeah, that's my assumption, that they will come to us in near future. So no HIPS for today on the agenda, which brings us to the next topic, which is the election we had this month. So for people who are new in our TSC meetings, we the members of the TSC are elected to represent the community of the Hiero project within that TSC. And in this month, we had an ongoing election for one of those seats, which was the one of our maintainer seats. And we did an election that ended 2 days ago, and this sheet, the timeline now says that in this meeting today, we will announce the new TSC member, and I'm happy to do so, and congratulate Georgi Lazarov for being a new member of the TSC and taking the seat of George Spazov. So, Georgi, I see you here in the meeting. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I'm really honored. I can't believe it's happening. Yeah, I'm really grateful to all the people who voted, not for me, but voted as a whole, because it's important. And I will do everything in my power, to represent them and help help everyone to make it their number one, and hero on the net.
Great, thank you. And for people who don't know you, I think what is a good view is on the last community call, so the community call from last week, all nominees of the TSC were part of the community call and gave an introduction of themselves and answered questions coming from the community. And I can say that after that, again, people voted. So I think that was a quite good thing to do that, to introduce you to the community in one of those community calls. And yeah, thanks for being here, Georgie. I will ping you later this week so that we, put your name everywhere and do all the things that are needed to get you onboarded. But for now, from this moment on, see you as a member of the TSC. And Milan wants to say something.
Well, first of all, congratulations, Georgie. It's really great. Happy to have you. And additionally to that, I want to say that meeting on Thursday, doing it like that, I think it was really great. And definitely I propose that we do that with every election. although I don't think there are any elections until 2026 or 2027. But I think that was great, allowed us, although, the attendance was not like huge, there were a few people. I think it still allows for people to look up the recordings and to see like, hey, who are these people, and kind of want to learn more about them. So definitely propose that we make that part of our normal procedure in terms of elections.
Yeah. And that's what I did, right? I was not able to attend, but I watched yesterday's recording of the meeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree, we should continue doing that. It was really good. Thanks, Nigan. Anything else regarding the voting? Any questions from anybody? Okay, good. Which brings us to the next topic, which is more a short information I would like to give. So since this election is now done, graduation is done, and so on, I need a new topic to work on. And what I'm currently doing is trying to work on good first issues, on getting new contributors, especially in the context of the Hacktoberfest. So if you don't know what the Hacktoberfest is, it's an initiative created by DigitalOcean and GitHub in the past. I don't know when they started for the first year. And the idea of Hacktoberfest is to let people do their first open source contributions and do their first contributions in new projects. The website let you even like track your contributions and things like that. And if you did 3 contributions that are labeled by Hacktoberfest, then in the past you get something like a T-shirt or a goodie pack with GitHub stickers and stuff like that at home. So it's really nice to get new contributions, get people aware of your project and so on. And we already participated last year at Hacktoberfest, and even if our project was just there and we do not have much time for preparation and all that, we achieved several contributions coming from people over issues we had at Hacktoberfest. And this year I would like to make it even a little bit bigger. I'm currently working on even a nice addition to our web page. I already showed it to some people. Let me, here's a tab. So this is something that hopefully is ready to use when the Hacktober starts in, what is it, like a week, which is an overview on all, those numbers are not correct, they will be coming, but this is an overview about all good first issues we have at Hiero, where people can easily say like, oh, I want to work on Rust. Okay, Rust only has one good first issue, let's have a look at it. And here we have an issue with a very good description, a very rich description, a lot of additional information, and so on and so on. And that is my goal, to have a lot of issues designed like that, written like that, so that it's quite understandable for newcomers to Hiero to just take that issue and solve it, and creating this platform that we can link on our page, integrate to our page, and so on, to have a single point where people can find all our good first issues out of all the different repos we have. And next to that, I created a contributor highlighting page where you can see all contributors ever contribute to any of the Hiero repositories, and that is really a huge list. So just as an information, what is going on at that front, and yeah, I hope to have really some nice stuff then next month, where people can work on. any questions or feedback on that?
No, it looks amazing. I think also, wasn't it Sophie who said that she actually started getting involved by doing those Hacktoberfest challenges? So that's I think
Yeah.
that's a perfect example for getting those new community members in. So well done on those last year. Yeah, it's great.
So I have one question for you, Hendrik. If someone in one of the sub-projects under Hiero wants to add their project to Hacktoberfest, do they
Yeah.
simply tag it with the Hacktoberfest metadata tag there? And I think I saw
Yeah,
fly
it's
back.
yeah. So I'm currently writing guidelines. So like a markdown for our government repository, giving an overview about what the process is like and what we want to do. I hope to have it finished later this week. I'm like halfway through it. So my initial idea was that we have the Hacktoberfest label, yes, but that in the best case, not just everybody at that label, but that we have like this is an candidate for Hacktoberfest, and we have like a group of people taking a look at this issue if that is really a solid good first issue. And if it is, then the Hacktoberfest label is being added. Otherwise, it gets back to the person who created it with a question to, like add more documentation to it or split it up or whatever.
Perfect. Sounds like a great plan.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just curious if there's any thoughts on how we can best socialize, amplify, not only Hacktoberfest, I know that's pretty well known, but pointing to some of these good first issues, pointing to Hiero just in general, just using this as another avenue to, for awareness around their current positioning and activities within Hiero overall. I know you showed the contributor list. I mean, that's a target audience, but clearly to the extent that we can broaden the participation, I think that's always a good thing. So any thoughts? I just don't know if there's any marketing efforts that are being done like on the Hiero website or things like that.
Yeah. So Michael Cantor, what you just writing is exactly that here, right? So
Okay.
that is using so Michael Cantor just wrote in the chat that to answer your question would recommend a landing page with good first issues, getting them by the GitHub API. And this is exactly how this page is working. So it does exactly that. And I would like to have that at a landing page too. And then I don't know, like use X or LinkedIn, whatever, to advertise it. Brandon.
Yeah. Also, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
No, my bad. I should have raised my hand. I think this is really great. I think it's hilarious that you guys are already doing it. I think from our perspective, maybe we could do a coordinated campaign around this page, since this already exists.
Yeah. One other thing I'd mention, just to circle this back into kind of I think a general topic that's brought up consistently in this group, is that kind of very broad outreach. I think we're doing a great job of doing that targeted outreach and continuing that. But I think that I'll say it again. I think that getting an X account for Hiero and those different things, I think would be great because when we think about these broader communities, and especially folks that are not on GitHub yet, which is the whole purpose of this, is to get people involved for the first time and start their development journey. I think that would be a good thing. So I don't know what from the Linux Foundation standpoint what needs to happen from that perspective, but I would be happy to at this point to kind of take that on and drive that forward and possibly manage an X account for Hiero. And I think that as a starter for content, I I think that, summaries of these meetings that we have and just focusing on that general visibility, I think would be great, and giving everyone a channel to kind of do that. But just looping it back, and we can kind of continue that conversation. But just want to throw my hand up and throw my hat in. But Diane, feel free to chime
Yeah,
in.
I get to be the Debbie Downer on that one. So for the Linux Foundation, if we're going to do that, and maybe we can get Jessica to shepherd that through, or that request through, please do not register a Twitter handle in your own name or in a personal name.
Yeah, for sure.
Make sure it's owned by the Linux Foundation and managed by the Linux Foundation, and we can have secondary people on those accounts. But that's one of the rules of thumb we learned when we created the initial Hiero stuff. Was I think we created the URL using, we scrambled off when we decided on Hiero and created it, and then it took like 6 weeks to transfer it to the Linux Foundation. So lesson learned the hard way. And Jessica can help you with that.
Perfect. Yeah, that'd be great. I think anything we can do to move quickly on that. And I mean, it's not a huge GitHub profile. It's easy to transfer Twitter account ownership and stuff, but we'll for sure go through official channels and stuff. But I think that would solve a lot of problems for the group from a general visibility standpoint. But shout out to Richard. I don't know if he's in the call, and other folks. I think that individually as members, until we have an official account, I think that continuing to kind of keep that visibility up in general, and just kind of keep Hiero ever present in people's feeds, I think is just going to keep things top of mind and help a lot of these initiatives. So I see the chat messages, and Milan telling me to do it. Not going to do it yet, Milan. Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
and if you also need to do any publications with the LFDT Twitter account, and so the other thing that we need to be careful is not to look like we are going one way and then LFDT is going the other way, right? So we want to continue keeping the brand within LFDT, and for that we do have our Twitter account that we can make announcements on. So if we want to make announcements from the LFDT Twitter account, we can totally do that.
I think what just makes that difficult is I think it's important to elevate Hiero as a brand itself, and as a project itself. And I think that, whether we like it or not, X is really the main communication platform for a lot of developers, either in blockchain or open source. So I think that, from a scope perspective, I think we're talking about just a Twitter account that publishes probably maybe weekly, just a brief update on kind of what the group is up to, and maybe some announcements. So I think that if we could keep it as a minimal lift and just to get something started, I think that would be really huge. I do think that sometimes I go back and I think about some of the characters that Hendrik was working on for Hiero and some of those things. I think that Hiero as a brand, I think that'd be hugely beneficial, but I'll leave it there. Just wanted to say I'm in full support of that, and any way I can help move that forward, please let me know.
Good. Okay. Any other comment? Oh, there's a long comment in the chat about it. Alex, do you wanna?
No, that was for AOB. I just know if we want to go through the other project
Okay.
proposals first.
Okay. So I'm just seeing Richard and Michael Garber are now here. For you two, we had a look at the HIP list. None of them was like reported to be presented today, so we just skipped that. Is that correct?
I wasn't. I didn't have anything on my list.
So
Okay, good.
the clean fees HIP is, I think, in good shape now, and is kind of, we presented it, but we wanted to make sure we adjust all the comments. I think that's been done. So I mean, it's up to Richard, but I think clean fees is potentially ready to be voted on.
Okay, why don't we take another read through it? I haven't read through it since it got cleaned up. So let's have another read on it and we can vote. It wasn't yeah, I wasn't made aware of that ahead of time.
Same for me. But so does it mean so like HIP 1261 everybody should read until next week, and then next week we will vote on it without an additional presentation?
I think so.
Okay, good. Then let's do it like that. Cool. Good. Okay. So we have two project proposals today, and the first one is from Keith, who's here in that meeting. Keith, do you want to share the screen? Should I? What do you prefer? To give a short overview about that proposal?
Yeah, if you could share that, would be great, Hendrik.
Okay. Is it fine like that, first of all?
Yep, great.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Good morning, everyone. So this, for those of you who attended, we had a quick discussion about this at the end of one of our last TSC meetings, maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago. This is around, we have a series of identity standards that work within the HIP process, and we like to bring them all into Hiero and kind of have them in one place. So the classic example of this would be, many of you may have known that we've had the DID Hedera standard. And that, what do I mean by standard? So obviously we have HIPs, and HIPs are obviously like, improvement proposals or informational HIPs. But we have these in the identity space, we have the need to also publish these documents which say, okay, well, this is what a DID Hedera HIP is. And more importantly, this is how you read it and write it to the to a Hiero network or to an HCS network. And from that standard, people can build additional implementations based on that standard. The community can also use that standard to understand how it works. People from outside the Hedera community. And often we also need to publish these standards in third-party repos or make, or provide links in third-party repos to our standard. So, we have a growing number of identity standards. DID Hedera version 1. We now actually have just had DID Hedera version 2 has come up and it's been proposed by the Hashgraph Association. We also have, and I just put up a new HIP for this last night, a new Hedera Hiero Anon-Creds method standard. So the idea was that instead of having like lots, first of all, we would like to host all of these standards in Hiero. We want them to be managed by the HIP process, and that's how we've been managing DID Hedera to date. Is like any updates, any changes, all goes through the HIP process. We'd like one repo where instead of having like many repos, like an individual repo for each of these standards, what we suggested is that we have one repo, which I'm suggesting in this project proposal called Hiero Identity Standards. And within that repo would be like maybe multiple folders, and each folder can contain a different standard. And like today, there's 3 standards we'd like to contribute to this repo, but there'll probably be more in the future around decentralized identity, maybe around, we probably have some stuff coming around like zero knowledge proof identity. So yeah, that's the proposal at a high level. Does that make sense to everyone? Questions, comments?
No, Keith, it makes sense. I'm just as reading through this. I know that these are anchored in some base standards maintained elsewhere. And these could be standards that are W3C standards. They could be IEEE standards. It could be any number. So
yeah. Exactly. The DID standards are anchored in a W3C, the W3C DID standard. So it's basically like how you take that global standard and then anchor it on HCS, but with some variation. And then the Anon-Creds standard actually comes from OPA Wallet Foundation Hyperledger Anon-Creds. So it's basically that Hyperledger non-creds, how we take that standard, how we anchor those objects onto Hedera Consensus Service.
So I guess my question to that is, this is really a kind of representation or an implementation on using the Hedera methods to implement. And is there from a conformance or compliance testing, which is normally kind of a standard practice with these types of this type of work, is there a conformance test suite that's either we link to, or that we need to that needs to be incorporated as part of this, just to ensure that those who are adopting this are conformant with the base spec?
So great question. For the DID standards, there actually is a new process within DIF. Sorry, I'm sorry for all the acronyms. For the Decentralized Identity Foundation, there are like they have like test suites, and they have a row of checkboxes. Now, I would say that process of working DID Hedera through that conformance process is not really related to this repo, although maybe we could add it to the README or something with they all pass. For the a non-cred standard, one of the reasons we need this kind of publish these standards, and we want to publish these standards on Hiero, is that we then have to provide links in the Hyperledger non-creds spec. We need to provide links from there back to our Hiero spec. So yeah, there's a lot of cross-linking that happens between the main spec and these kind of where we publish our specs. That's important for us.
Yeah, I mean, for the uninitiated or somebody who's not deeply steeped in this standards type of work, I mean, it can get pretty confusing very quickly as you're implementing these, and just to have at least some references to the means to ensure conformance, I think is always valuable here. So that and maintaining kind of parity with what's currently expected for conformance. It gets said because you have all these interactions or interlinked activities. Again, that further can complicate things. So anyway, just a consideration to flesh this out. But I'm supportive of this type of work, so that we can take advantage of the broader ecosystem that's out there, whether it's Web3 or not.
So I cannot, as sharing my screen, raise my hand, so I do it like this. Very good point, Alex. What you just brought up. When I read through that, I was absolutely not thinking on it, but I totally agree. When you have a spec, you want to have a compatibility check kind of thing that checks that the implementation is really, like 100% implementing the spec and don't do something else. So not a blocker for this project proposal from my point of view, but by getting more and more DIDs to that repository, and we now use the word spec and standards already several times. I agree that it's a point we should think about how to do the verification of those specs and standards in implementations, especially in implementations that are hosted at Hiero. I think that's a very good point. Yeah.
So I think let me address. I think I understand the point better now, Alex. So yeah, I mean, obviously we are publishing a standard. There can be many libraries that implement to that standard. And in fact, if we took a DID Hedera, we have great examples of this. Like we have Miko, who developed libraries to the standard. We also recently have had Hashgraph Association has developed libraries to the standard, but they actually made some changes to the standard. They updated the standard a little bit. And so actually what they did is through the HIP process, they submitted, sorry, I can't remember the HIP number, but they just presented, they have a new HIP in draft, which informational HIP to update the Hedera standard. So I would say the standards themselves are living, breathing things that change basically as the global standard changes. And then on the implementation side, I mean, we do have some implementations. I don't think we have a ton. And, I think mostly we work within the community to make sure that implementations adhere to the standard. And if they don't, all these things are open source. Generally, we put up PRs and things like that. Like, can you fix this? Can you alter that? So I don't know if we need a formal process. I think that we work through the open source best practices to make sure that things conform to our current standard. I mean, that's what I would suggest. I just don't think we're big enough yet. We don't have enough implementations that we need a formalized certification process, if that's the suggestion.
No. I was suggesting that we have a certification process here. It's really just ensuring that as part of the repo, we maintain the references to those kind of not only just the normative specifications, but also the conformance protocols, just so that, again, as people are deploying these, they can more readily, easily ensure that they're doing so in a conformant way. But again, to Hendrik's point, definitely not a blocker in my mind. It's just a recommendation or just suggestion, and as you said, something to set the foundation. Hopefully, that this grows moving forward.
Okay, any other questions on that proposal? Keith, do you want to add anything to it?
Don't think so. I just want to call out my partner in crime, Diane, also helped, is driving a lot of this. I don't know, Diane, if you have anything you'd like to add.
I'm just looking forward to having a home for all of this under Hiero, and really would be grateful if we could get this moved forward.
One question for me, again, just for to better understand it. Do you plan to have like standards or like a specification how a documentation must be in that repo? Like, okay, everything must be marked down, everything must be rendered with that tool, or is it like in that repo are folders and whatever is in a folder can be like in a totally different structure than in another folder?
Yeah, it's a great point. So a lot of these documents are just readmes. I do think we have the Hiero non-creds documentation is actually a like a hosted GitHub like a standards doc. I think so in this project request, I did leave space for both options. I don't now like the Hiero, this non-creds doc is like this because that's actually what the community that's how other people in the community do their non-creds doc. So I think we try to just fit into how the rest of that community does their doc. I personally don't have a preference. I think in the project proposal, I left space for both options. And I think it's more about what the needs of the standard are, is what I would say.
Okay. Good. Any other questions, comments? Can we do a voting on it? Anybody against doing a voting, not feel comfortable with doing a vote today? Okay. Then we can do a voting on it. And let me open again here now all the people so that I can go through the list and know who's here. Brandon.
So just for clarity,
yeah.
the motion is to accept this as a project under Hiero.
Yes. So the motion is to create Hiero identity standards as a project with exactly one repository. It's written somewhere that we called Hiero identity standards, and with those maintainers and committers. Yeah, and then they will, I assume, one after each other, convert those 3 specs to the repo, and from that move forward. Richard,
I may have missed it, but did we discuss how the hit process feeds into this thing?
that's a very good question. Keith, you should tell that or answer
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so we have a model for this. To date, and we're just going to use did Hedera as the model. The standards are initially proposed through a HIP, and to date they've been mostly done through through application HIPs. We could probably have that conversation whether it's an application or informational HIP, but to date they've been done through applicational HIPs, and then changes to the specification. We've had a number of changes to the did Hedera specification. They have also been done through application HIPs. So a non-creds method is like a new standard. I just actually put up a draft of that HIP yesterday. So we'll look for acceptance of that HIP before we merge that project into that standard into this repo. But of course, again, it's an informational HIP. And then again, any changes to the non-creds method standard over time will also be done through HIPs.
Okay. So this means I cannot just create did Hendrik. I need to create an HIP first, and if that is approved, I'm allowed to create that folder with the spec, correct?
Correct. Although, just as a call out, informational or applicational HIPs have a different kind of approval process. So those approvals do not currently come to TSC for approval. So I would say the HIP process more facilitates community conversation. And the DA is currently the Hashgraph DA is currently managed the application HIP process.
Okay. Other questions on that one? Okay, well, then let's go through the list. Brandon,
Yes.
Georgie,
Yes.
Alex.
Approved.
Congratulations to your first vote. Alex,
Thanks.
Approved.
Migan,
I was just celebrating. Yeah, yes.
Michael,
That's a yes for me.
Riemann,
Yes.
Stoyan,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
and I do yes too. Great. So congratulations, Keith and Diane, for moving that forward. Cool. Now we have a new home for all the different did methods, and I really like to center it in one project, which is similar with the second project proposal we have, and that is one I will present. So we have at Hiero now, or already today we have at Hiero tools that provide a command line interface, a CLI. One tool is Solo, the other one is the Hedera CLI that becomes the Hiero CLI, where we voted on, I think, like 3 weeks maybe ago, to move that one to Hiero, and more tools that will provide CLI tools will come to the project. So for a CLI tool, it's always great to have any way how you can, like install those tools on your machine. And for macOS, one of the preferred tools to install command line tools is Homebrew, what you normally use on a Mac to install those tools on your machine. And what we would like is adding so-called Homebrew formulas to Hiero, which defines how a tool by using Homebrew is installed on macOS. Those formulas are by definition can be stored at GitHub. It's a kind you can think about like a kind of script that defines what are the dependencies for that tool, what need to be done to get that tool in a specific version installed on your machine so that you can simply execute it from the terminal, from the command line. And instead of creating like for all those tools repositories with having a homebrew formula here and there, this project proposal suggests to create a project which is called homebrew tools with exactly one repository called homebrew tools that, similar to what we've just seen with the did repo, where each did method or spec has one folder, here each homebrew formula that we will have coming from Hiero projects will be part of that repo then within a folder, and then we can easily do like code ownership to give the maintainers and committers, for Solo as an example, code ownership of the Solo homebrew formula in that repository. That's the idea behind that one, and as initial maintainers and committers, it will be exactly the people who work on things like Solo and the Hiero CLI, because those two will be the first projects we want to provide homebrew formulas and homebrew support with that new project. Any questions on that suggestion?
Hendrik, this is Diane Mueller. I think this past year I read something about homebrew tools being hacked, and it just brings me, or some compromised through a homebrew tool. What is the security management for these homebrew tools? Is that baked in?
I would say better than NPM. So I mean,
okay. All
it's
right.
at the end, I mean, if a formula get hacked or something, right, then you will have that problem, and that is why I think it's important that for tools like Solo, we provide the formula and it's in our scope so that we know who can maintain it and who can change it, because the most dangerous attack vector here is really attacking those formulas. So when you use homebrew to install, I don't know, like the Hiero CLI or anything else, that this formula has a hack and installs malicious code on your PC. It's more or less what happens with NPM a lot too, right? Michael?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, so homebrew tools would essentially be like a proxy for Solo and Hiero CLI, right? It would just call their equivalent like npm commands directly. Is that right?
It works, yeah, it works in homebrew a little bit different. So in theory, you can think about that, but in homebrew, it's really that you have a repository, and in that repository, it's then a tab, how it's called, a third-party repository, where you can put into that repository multiple formulas. So it's a little bit different per NPM, where you say you have one repository and the repository contains the code and everything for the project. For homebrew, it's different. Even if we would have only one project, let's say we only have Solo, we could not put the formula into that repo. We then would need a like homebrew Solo repo. And instead of creating a new repo for each and every tool, we can use that tab functionality to say, okay, we put multiple formulas into one repo, but it needs to be a separated repo anyway. Does that make sense?
Sort of. Just what is the end state for somebody who is using this, and like also just from what's inside of Pyro itself? Is Homebrew Tools really just a wrapper, and then that wrapper is essentially cloning Solo and the CLI tools into your Mac when you run it?
Ah, okay. Now, so your question is Homebrew building the things on my machine? That's your
Um,
question, right? Or what is
more
what
like
is your question?
more like the general architecture. So when you run BrewTap in this case, you will
Yeah.
also be cloning Solo and the CLI tools on your computer, right?
Not for 100%, as far as I know, and I'm not a deep I'm a Homebrew user, right? I never created anything for Homebrew, but if I understand it correctly, maybe somebody else here in the meeting who has more knowledge. I mean, having a formula, it's if I understand it correctly, more like a script. So you could say like I build step by step everything, or you could say, hey, I download three things and then put them together in the formula. So I assume the answer it depends, and you could do it in way A or way B. So let's say like if everything like Solo and Hiero CLI is already uploaded to npm, I assume that the Homebrew formula can be nothing than saying, hey, I need npm as a dependency, and then download it by using npm and then install it as a global tool on my machine. But that's my assumption.
I think that's right. The end result should be that you could just say, brew install Solo, and then you
Yeah.
should be able to just type in Solo whatever, and you never have to directly use npx or npm or manually install any of that or anything. It should just work. So is what we're really trying to solve here is the distribution problem.
Yeah.
I know that for myself as a user on Mac, the thing I always want to do is just install from Brew all the little tools that I'm going to use, and then just use them. So that was what the purpose of it was.
Michael, any other questions, comments? Is that clear or?
From my side, I have to take a look at the proposal itself because I'm still not 100% certain what the end state is after the user
Okay.
actually calls the tab command. What is
Oh no,
what's on
the
your
user,
computer?
forget about the tab command. So first of all, let's have so what the user should do is, I hope I have a good getting started here. Pure manual page, but it's not a good example. So let's do example to install. So what a user should be doing is, I don't know, I just click now on randomly any link. Oh, that's wait. Here we go. So somebody who has, oh, that's a good example. So if you want to have CMake on a Mac, what you can do when you have Brew installed, you do Brew install CMake. And then Brew figures out, oh, where is the formula for CMake? Oh yeah, that is in that repository. I download the formula and then I execute the formula. Maybe before that, I install the dependencies that are needed by that formula and so on. So it's at the end, it works more or less like something npm or something similar works. The difference is that this Brew one is coming especially to install and manage CLI tools on macOS so that they are globally installed and can easily be used by a terminal. So this is what an end user does to install Solo as an example. And then Solo is in the latest version installed and can be used. That should be the result for a user.
I would say, just to add to this, is that there are, recommendations around just configuring Homebrew to also provide additional controls and everything from not running Homebrew under sudo to setting a separate local path there, so it can't override local tooling, et cetera, et cetera. So that might be something we incorporate in here as so you want to do this. If you're new to Brew or you, et cetera, make sure you're being mindful of recommended security practices here. But I think, to your point, it's really it's orchestrating the installation of a particular tool, taking into account the differences between Mac OS and a pure Linux distribution, by and large, masking or simplifying all the dependency management and whatnot. So I think it's really more important to equally important, I should say, to ensure that you've got a well deployed Homebrew, in addition to then knowing where you're pulling your sources for as you're installing.
Yeah, and I think this having Homebrew correct installed and things like that out of scope of what we are discussing here, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah, but I agree on it. Yeah. So we have anyway only two minutes left, and we have an ongoing discussion on it. So I suggest to move this one to the next meeting. Mike, a question to you, or in general to everybody else. What would help you to understand it better? What additional information is needed for you?
I'd love to see like a memory diagram. I think that would be really great. With some kind of visual breakdown of. Mostly, I'm just wondering when they run these brew commands, what's being installed on their computer? Is it GitHub? Is it npm package, a Python package? And then when they call Solo or Hiero CLI in this case, what's the flow? Is it almost exactly the same as if they were to do it independently by cloning the repo, or is it different? That sort of thing would be great.
Yeah, where I agree on after having this discussion now, the project proposal is written for people who know Brew and who know Homebrew. That is not at all described there. And yeah, having a diagram makes sense. And I will have a look how other formulas look like, and we'll bring it up in the next meeting. Yeah. Thanks for all the feedback. I will update it. Cool. With that, we are at any other business and 1 minute left. Is there anything important for today? Anything I should add on the agenda for next week?
Yeah, no, it's just what I had in there. I mean, some of the requirements or expectations that we have on maintainers is to do regular reporting to the TSC. I'm not familiar with that occurring, or frankly, what we expect to do with such reporting, as has been outlined as maintainer roles. So just having a discussion around, that aspect of the TSC's role and how we react to that. So that's what I wanted to kind of raise.
Yeah,
we set the expectations, but do we do it and have people do something that's just got a waste of time, or is some value that we can extract out of that?
I believe it's value, and I mean, we already had it, right? So I gave an overview of on the Solo Action repository, what happened there I don't know, like 2 months ago or something like that. And I would totally like to see that more. Maybe it's on us to define what we expect.
Right. What that was going to lead to is what
Yeah.
do we expect? Is just making it so people aren't guessing and doing things that are value add and not just administrative. That's what I just want to have a conversation around.
Yeah. Good point. Anything else? Oh yeah, thank you, Jessica. So we have, is it starting now or in an hour? I don't know. There's
No, it's not now. It's in 1 more hour.
in 1 more hour, and I'm happy to share the link too. Diane is
Yeah,
just
thank you.
for it. So there's a meetup, an LFDT meetup, a blockchain foundation with Hedera certification and hackathon opportunities. And here's the link for it. And talking about meetups, I don't know if it's already recorded, but we had a very good session last week about 1 year of Hiero, and I had a very great, nice fireside chat together with Megan and Sophie. I could have done it like 3 times as long as it was. So from my point of view, a very good view. We should get the recording and maybe put it somewhere, upload it somewhere. That would make totally sense for the community. Okay. Cool. And with that, thanks for being here, and I hope to see you in one of the upcoming Hiero meetings. Okay. Bye.
Thanks, Hendrik.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.